I want to talk about these levels in spiral dynamics as it pertains to the Zeitgeist movement and the Skeptic movement. If you're not familiar with spiral dynamics, this is a progression of value systems that all of us go through, and it's also a progression of value systems that societies will go through as a whole, where we'll all start at purple and then we'll go up to these different levels: red, blue, orange, green, and hopefully to the second tier levels, as they're called, yellow and turquoise. To clear up some possible confusion right away, not everyone is going to be just on one of these levels. So it's not like we're taking, where you're all on orange or you're all blue. We're actually all like blobs that kind of make our way up this value system progression. But for example, you could have someone who, in terms of politics, is at the orange level, but in terms of religion is blue. But then when it comes to some environmental issues, they're actually at the green level. So we all are blobs. Just keep that in mind. Sometimes it's hard to speak about this without putting it into very simple terms that throws out a lot of the nuance of the system. Comes to the skeptic organization, we want to ask what type of people are attracted to it. Well, first, we don't want to think about blue because blue is the value system of religious fundamentalism. That's where people say they have the one truth, this is the one way, and everyone has to conform to it. And then they go out and they try to force other people to conform to what they believe is the one true way. Around the time of the Enlightenment and the scientific revolution, that's when we started to see society shift from blue to orange, and people were saying, hey, I don't want to follow this blue mean one true way because it was controlling, it was oppressive to the individual. And you had orange come around where focus was put on the individual and personal achievement. And here, instead of having belief being in what the Bible said, we now started to see scientific progress, and that people saying, well, now this is objective. This is not taking by faith what the book says. This is about the real world. And you started to have this focus not just on science, but I think materialism as well. The skeptics are not at the green meme level, because at the green meme, that's where we start having focus put on community, egalitarianism, about respecting the partial truth of different people. It's like this is where you'll have people saying, no, I have my truth and you have your truth, and we'll honor each other's truth. So that's green meme. Someone at the green meme is not going to put all this activist energy into denouncing alternative healthcare and beliefs in supernatural phenomena such as ghosts or near-death experience. That's not what a green meme person is going to do, because they value the partial validity of different perspectives. It's the person at the orange level who's going to start doing this because they don't care about looking into the partial validity of different perspectives. They care about kind of their personal achievements, and they care about the science which has liberated them from this blue meme tyranny of being forced to conform to some system. But interestingly, all of these memes will transcend and include what came before. So red will transcend yet also include purple, and orange will transcend but include purple, red, and blue. So with these skeptics, not only is there a great deal of orange to them, but there's a great deal of blue to them, in that they believe that what they hold to be the scientific truth is the indisputable scientific eternal truth. And they are very closed-minded and dogmatic to listening to other perspectives, and they refuse to accept that the possibility of dogma, which in the official establishments, within the official scientific establishments. If we jump ahead to the Zeitgeist movement, we'll see that they clearly are not at this orange-blue level, as a lot of focus is now on the group. But in the blue level, the group focuses on all the believers of the one true way. So if the one true way is Judaism. The focus is on everyone who's included in our Jewish family, and if you're outside, then screw you. And I could say the same thing about other religions, whether Christians or Muslims or so forth. When you have a religious fundamentalist, what they really care about is their group. The Zeitgeist movement, now the group is the entire human family. And the values, the meme where you see that development is green. But there's more to the Zeitgeist movement than simply this green level. Because people at green, they really are insistent that everyone is equal, that every perspective is equal, and it goes overboard. It's only at the yellow level that there's an awareness that, yeah, there might be some validity to different perspectives, but some perspectives are more valid than others. You know, generally, if you're listening to this, your personal value system is of more depth than a Nazi's, for example. But we're looking beyond that. Also, at the yellow meme, we're now looking at the world differently. We're understanding it as a complex network of interrelating aspects. It's a very different worldview in that up to green, we kind of think in very linear modes. So that's why in politics we'll have these issues like they'll discuss healthcare, or they'll discuss the military or defense or education. We have these little linear packets of discourse. But when we go from green to yellow, this just doesn't cut anymore, because at the yellow meme, reality is looked at as this vast interconnected network. And that's one of the big shifts that happens that's really hard, for people to get through. So if we talk about like maybe famous people who are at the green meme, you think about John Lennon, for example. But if you look at the yellow meme, well, then we're going past that, and people who you come up with would be like Carl Sagan for one, but also George Carlin. So people who's looking at all the bullshit and how the system itself doesn't make any sense. So in the Zeitgeist movement, we have the communitarian aspect of the green meme, but we're also moving past some of these problems with trying to force everyone to be equal, but also looking at the world as this interconnected network where everything affects everything else. That's completely yellow meme. So most people in the Zeitgeist movement are really going to be at this green meme level. They're not going to be a yellow because very few people are actually at the yellow meme. And by the way, probably happens is everyone who studies spiral dynamics is convinced they're at the yellow meme. But we're primarily going to have green meme people who are attracted to the Zeitgeist movement because of the focus on the community and moving to a world that takes care of everyone. There's going to be a focus on the humanistic aspect. And people at yellow also care about that. It's just that when you're at the green meme, your focus is on the community. Like that's the main thing. When you're a yellow, you want a functional community, but you also it's like get to this point where you're trying to find value in things by looking at different experiences and learning from other people, and then you just could get to the point where it's like, is this all that there really is? And then you just have to put a lot of focus on your self-development, and not so much in trying to immerse yourself in other people, different perspectives. Anyway, what happens when what could happen if you have people coming into a system that really can only function at one of these levels, but they're at a much lower level? And the example that I give from history that I think the Zeitgeist movement really wants to learn from would be socialism. Because when you go all the way back to the utopian socialists and up through Marx, you're talking about people at the green meme. People who wanted to see humanity come together and work together and use the new technology for the betterment of everyone. But then when you go to the start of the 20th century and we start getting into what happened with the Soviet Union, we are very far away from the green meme. We're talking about the blue meme, where it's now the religious cult of the working class. And you even have things like the official anthems, and you have uniforms and all that. Basically, socialism degraded into the religion of the blue meme. And I would say even in my 20s, when I would go at different socialist groups, they're still talking about, is this person working class, is that person working class? And you can see that this influx of blooming thinking really brought down socialism, because at that time I got into socialism because I believed that it was communitarian. I didn't look at it as the cult of the working class. But as I got into my 30s, I eventually realized there's very different interpretations of what people mean by socialism. And it's completely true that for many people it is communitarian, and people do get into it because they're humanistic and they do want to see the best for everyone in the global community. But I also saw that aspect of people getting into it as the cult of the working class. Now, in order for something like the Soviet Union to have worked, you really would have had to have a critical mass of people at the green level. Now, in order for Stalin to have been able to kill all those people, you need people to follow him, and you need blooming people to go in and starve those living in the Ukraine, for example. So everything about the Soviet Union was this enforcement of blue meme. Everyone must conform to the one true way. Within the Zeitgeist movement, in order for a resource-based economy to work, you're going to get at the same problem. You need to have people at the green and yellow meme. It cannot be all green, because there's this understanding that we do things according to the scientific method for social concern. So if a group of people get together and they vote on putting resources towards something that really doesn't make any sense because they feel like it, that's just not the way it's done. Things are done according to a certain methodology. And when if you start talking to people at the green meme, there's this big emphasis on democracy, democracy, democracy. And it's, to me, it's kind of annoying, because the focus should not be in democracy. It's about how do you arrive at decisions. Now, but you have to have this type of, what for lack of a better word, say scientific methodology to arriving at decisions, paired with the humanistic collective part of the green meme. You need that. If you don't have that working together, if you try to implement the scientific method for social concern with a bunch of orange-blue meme people, you will have a complete and total disaster, just like the Soviet Union. First of all, these people are not thinking in terms of a holistic system or network. They're thinking in very simple reductionistic terms. So whether you're talking about healthcare or education or any of that stuff, there's going to be a very linear dialogue, and their attempt is going to be to force everyone to go along around the same path. Whereas yellow green meme will understand everyone doesn't need the same education, everyone doesn't necessarily need the same healthcare, and so forth. Yellow green wants to honor these different perspectives. Yellow will put some reins on this and say, hey, everyone can't just do anything because there's kind of the laws of nature and science is a dictatorship. But yellow will not abandon the humanistic aspect, which is really the guiding force. And one of the things I disagree with the Zeitgeist movement is an attempt to separate from past things such as socialism. They want to say, no, this isn't about humanism. This is about the scientific method, and we're going to do things that are because it's scientific. But yeah, you want to be scientific, but you really have to hold on to the humanistic aspect, or else you're going to get people at the orange-blue meme. Now, when you see someone promoting the Zeitgeist movement all of a sudden take up the ideology of the skeptic movement and preach this skeptic movement jargon of, this is the scientific truth, I have a monopoly on it, if you disagree with it, you're wrong, and by the way, we now need to build a social system where everything is done according to my monopoly on the truth, that is that you're asking for a disaster. You put someone like that in charge, and you will have a world where people are forced to take vaccinations because it is scientifically correct. You will have a world where children are taken away from parents and forced to have what is deemed to be the scientifically correct education and so forth. Now, none of these things will actually be that correct with a healthcare education or anything else, because it will be understood within a very linear focus. It won't be looked at as one vast interconnected network. By the way, there won't be an emphasis on the humanistic aspect of the community working together. It's about, we have to do the one true way of people conforming to this. You have people being called up for heresy because they are speaking out against the dogma. So this is inherently a very dangerous proposition. Now, I don't think that it's realistic that something like that would happen, because you're not going to get. I don't know where you would get enough followers who are orange blue meme following something like a resource-based economy. Orange meme people are very much aligned with capitalism, libertarianism, and so forth. Blue meme religion, you're not going to get those people jumping onto resource-based economy bandwagon. But the concern is that there's someone or a few people who are attracted to the Zeitgeist movement, not because of the humanistic message, but because of the insistence that things will be done according to science. And maybe these people, they're not focused on the community. They think they are looking at the world as an interconnected network, but they really aren't. And they're basically at the orange meme, and then they're jumping on the bandwagon, and their message is, we need to force everyone to think in terms of the scientific method. And I'm the one who knows what the scientific method is. I'm the one who knows what science is, and so forth. Basically, you have something like the skeptic movement, but at least with the skeptic movement, they're also largely libertarians as well. So they'll call you a fraud and a phony because you want to use Reiki practice as a healing art, but they're not going to believe that's the government's role to force you to not use Reiki. But you don't want someone preaching changing the social order according to the scientific method, who then says that they have monopoly on what is scientifically true. That's the real concern. And when someone takes the holistic, system thinking idea of the Zeitgeist movement, of the scientific method for social concern, plus the communitarian, plus the idea of being communitarian, and wanting to see the best for everyone, when someone reduces that to let's force everyone along to what I say is the scientific method, that's really gutting the message of the Zeitgeist movement. And without that humanitarian message, you're talking about something that no longer is the Zeitgeist movement, no longer is what a resource-based economy is supposed to be. You're talking about people who are to want to create basically a scientific dictatorship, in the sense not that they're even following what's truly scientific, but a scientific dictatorship of what they say is scientific. And that's their message. Okay, bye.